by submission due to a triangle choke. And now, the new interim UFC lightweight champion of the world, Tony Ferguson.
He's just bucking and moving. Oh my goodness, this is tight. He's out cold. Bobby King's reign.
Former interim lightweight champion, 12 straight wins. The Ultimate Fighter Season 13 winner. How do you go from all of this to losing 6 straight fights and being submitted by unranked opponents? This is the sad downfall of Tony Ferguson.
Ferguson, this kid, I think, is the guy that could possibly win the show.
All right, Tony, congratulations. You are the Ultimate Fighter. You win the 6-figure contract.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Look, Mom!
Tony Ferguson would not start off with the UFC contract. He would win one on Season 13 of The Ultimate Fighter when he defeated Ramsey Nijem by knockout. Tony Ferguson would go 2-1 after that fight before he faced Mike Rio. That fight against Mike Rio has some significance to it because this win would be the first of many. Tony Ferguson would start to go on a win streak. Tony Ferguson started to build a name for himself in the UFC. From October 19th, 2013 to July 15th, 2015, Tony won 6 straight fights. And towards the end of 2015, we would see a glimpse of what we all wanted. Khabib Nurmagomedov is arguably the greatest UFC fighter of all time. He fought in the lightweight division, the same division that Tony fights in, and the UFC tried to book these two as coaches for The Ultimate Fighter, with Tony and Khabib fighting after the season. Sadly, Khabib broke his rib, and this fight would not happen. Tony Ferguson would beat Edson Barbosa for his 7-fight win streak and would attempt to fight Khabib again in April 2016. But sadly, Tony suffered a lung issue only 11 days before the scheduled fight. The second time now, a potential fight would not happen. Tony Ferguson would then win 2 more fights, bringing his win streak to 9. Tony Ferguson was scheduled to fight Khabib for a 3rd time at UFC 209 for the interim lightweight title. But sadly, just 1 day before weigh-ins, Khabib suffered weight-cutting issues that led him to be hospitalized. And now for a 3rd time, a potential Khabib Nurmagomedov and Tony Ferguson fight would not happen. But in 2017, we would see Tony fight. Tony Ferguson would face Kevin Lee for the interim lightweight title at UFC 216.
By submission due to a triangle choke. And now, the new interim UFC lightweight champion of the world, Tony Ferguson.
Tony Ferguson would successfully defeat Kevin Lee by submission, making him the interim lightweight champion and bringing his win streak to 10 straight wins. Tony would then get a chance to unify the interim title and become the real lightweight champion at UFC 223. But bad news would strike again. Tony Ferguson would injure his knee ligament while on studio set for media obligations to promote the fight. Now for the 4th time, we would not see Tony versus Khabib. Tony would fight Anthony Pettis later that year at UFC 229. Tony would then beat Donald Cerrone at UFC 238 to bring his win streak to 12 straight wins. The UFC would try one last time to make this fight happen. However, Khabib would not be able to leave his home country in Russia in 2020 due to travel restrictions from the pandemic. Tony would fight Justin Gaethje in May of 2020, and this is the start of the downfall we would witness. Justin Gaethje would win by TKO in round 5, snapping Tony Ferguson's 12-fight win streak. Tony would fight again in December 2020, where he would lose a decision to Charles Oliveira. Tony would fight again in May 2021, where he would lose a decision to Beneil Dariush. With a loss to Beneil, that made his losing streak now 3 straight losses. Tony Ferguson was in desperate need of a win, so he would take almost a year off before fighting Michael Chandler at UFC 274. The first round of the fight looked good for Tony, but in round 2, Michael Chandler did this.
Right up the middle, watch this kick. Oh, he's front kick to the chin. Oh my goodness. Out cold. He saw it.
4 months later, Tony would fight Nate Diaz at UFC 279, where he would lose by submission. Tony Ferguson just recently lost to Bobby Green at UFC 291, making it 6 fights in a row that he has now lost. It's so sad to see a guy who once was at the top of his division now lose to unranked opponents. At the time of recording this video, Tony is 39 years old and still under contract with the UFC. He hasn't retired yet, but he should most definitely consider it. The downfall is sad because what he has accomplished in his career, others would love to say they have done. Unfortunately, I don't think people will remember Tony Ferguson as the guy who was a former interim champion, having a 12-fight win streak, and winning the Ultimate Fighter. I believe people will remember Tony Ferguson as the guy who never won the real lightweight title, the guy who lost 6 straight fights, and the guy who lost to an unranked Bobby Green. Thank you for watching, subscribe for more videos just like this, and I'll see you next time.